The power of God. Hello everyone, welcome in today's video. In today's video, we'll be doing a new How Strong Is. In this video, we'll be looking at the power of SCP-343. To do this, we'll look at a new cosmology aspect of the SCP verse, the Macroverse. Some of you may know this, some of you may not. And then afterwards, we'll talk about something even more powerful, the Almighty. Let's start off with SCP-343's biography. The biography is shown on the SCP Wiki, which I'll have it read out just now.
Item hash SCP-343 Object Class Safe Special Containment Procedures SCP-343 resides in a 6.1 meters by 6.1 meters 20 feet by 20 feet room at Minimal Security Site 17. It should be brought any items it requests and visited by at least one staff member each day. Attempts to add further safety precautions or required clearances are unnecessary, impossible due to the nature of SCP-343. See description. Description: SCP-343 is a male, seemingly raceless, humanoid in appearance with apparent omnipotence. SCP-343 was discovered walking the streets of Prague and detained after a staff member witnessed him disappear from the streets and reappear on a rooftop. SCP-343 is detained willingly in his chamber, as containment has proved impossible. See notes. Addendum number 343-1, SCP-343, colloquially nicknamed God by the staff here, looks like an older man, although his features are different to each observer. In my first talk with him, he claimed outright to be the creator of the universe. When I asked him to prove this, he laughed, walked through the wall of the chamber, and returned seconds later with a hamburger in his hand. When I returned for a second visit, the previously bare cell had been furnished in upscale, Old English style, complete with a roaring fireplace, and seemed many times larger than it did from the exterior. SCP-343 greatly enjoys speaking with people, and seems to have a knowledge of all topics. Visiting with SCP-343 has become a daily event for many of the staff here, and all employees report feeling generally happier after each visit. Attempts to bar staff below Level 3 clearance have proven unsuccessful, as guards assigned to watch the room quit their posts, saying, "You know he likes company," or shrugging when questioned. Since SCP-343 has thus far been harmless, all staff have been allowed access, and somehow they all have time to meet with him for as long as they need. For now, I leave this report open as further questioning of SCP-343 is ongoing. Dr. Beck.
From this biography, we can conclude a number of things. The first thing is that he claims to be the creator of the universe. Because of such, and his kind attitude, people have nicknamed him God. He has some powers, as he demonstrated and was found out by the Foundation from these powers, and is generally a safe SCP that likes to have people come visit him. Overall, this isn't enough to get him proper scaling, this is just an introduction to see what he's like. We'll now go into his actual feats. Let's start with erasing Feats. When he forgot about someone who had interviewed him, that person no longer existed. When he got attacked by thousands of people, he not only erased all thousands of people, he also didn't even consider it a fight. It's stated by the narrator, if 343 ever got annoyed, he could erase every single human on Earth. It's also been shown before that people he erases he can bring back, and they can keep the memories of themselves being erased, as a forewarning to not cross 343. In terms of reality bending, 343 is incredibly powerful. When another powerful reality bender, being the Witch Child, SCP-239, was losing control of her powers, 343 was able to undo any damage she did to the reality, and also had an inner monologue that he would be able to very easily end her life. In fact, we have a numerical method for showing the power of reality benders in SCP called the Hume level. SCP-343 has a minimum Hume level of 860. By comparison, the witch child has a human level which varies from 30 up to 500, depending on how much control of her power she has. Interestingly, the item SCP-668 is stated to boost the user's human level by at least 670. And from this, we actually know that SCP-668 has a greater human level than SCP-072, Able, but has a lower human level than SCP-682. This means that a way of comparing SCP-343's reality bending is 343's reality bending. It should be on a similar level to 682's adaptation. In fact, we can even go a step further than that. When 682 and 343 were confronted with one another, it was shown that 343 is unable to reality bend 682, nor is he able to even see 682. Likewise, 682 never adapted to 343 and was unable to even touch 343. These two characters were on a level that neither could interact with the other, more implying that they are on similar terms. Now let's move on to some scaling that would determine what tier 343 is, and not just how he stacks inverse of SCP. The first interesting one I find is that when asked is he a reality bender that manipulates other dimensions, 343 seemed insulted and literally allowed the Foundation to think this if it would help them perceive how his abilities work, not because he actually uses other dimensions, implying he does something else which is actually more impressive that they would not be able to comprehend. The next interesting one is when sitting at his throne, seeing a bunch of worlds, trillions of worlds in fact, he looks at these and thinks that they're only looking at an illusionary time, where he can see himself as seeing a true time, and believes that myths are more real than that of the real time that people would be having. This means that ideologies which myths are made from, or concepts, would be the type of time that we would expect 343 to experience and consider real. This would make him at least outerversal. However, based on other contexts, we know this outerversal scaling is actually downplay, and we're going to go through that right now. When explaining how his creation works, we notice that 343 starts off with well-known scientific theories such as the many-world theory to try and get the Foundation worker to understand what he's talking about. However, immediately afterwards, he says that actually no, the Foundation, despite how intelligent they are, would not be able to comprehend his working creation. This is impressive considering when you think about what parts of creation the Foundation can think about, or at least the very basics when it comes to like cosmology building. It's even mocked afterwards, saying that mankind truly is incapable of destroying his things, saying that they think they can contain him with just a containment cell. It is true that perhaps 343 may underestimate the Foundation. However, we can work out an absolute bare minimum for how much 343 knows. How we do this is we actually use a chess game that 343 played against in their SCP, and in which they're going through all of humanity's old history. From this, we can go past eras such as the era which Plato was around, and understand that when 343 is making these claims, he must be including Platonic concepts. We can also justify this when you consider low-tier SCPs are manifestations of Platonic concepts, or how you can just go visit a realm where you can get questions answered and such from Platonic concepts. From this, we can say that a level of reality is at very minimum greater than a Platonic concept, because the Foundation and humanity can understand Platoism, and 343 says they could not understand the levels of his creation. Now, combining this knowledge with the two previous scans we previously used, the one where 343 thought dimensions were not very impressive, and where he was talking about the real flow of time, we can actually make a deduction for how big creation could be. We base this from the fact that after being insulted by the term dimensions, 343 says that he actually has stacked worlds on top of worlds. And in the other story, where he talks about the trillion worlds of creation, he then also goes on to say that creation is ever growing with an endless turbulence. This means there could be an endless number of worlds stacking on worlds, using realities that each grow from each other larger than Platonic concepts. Funny enough, we do not need to decode any of this. There is a story that covers how large creation is, and it covers all the details that we have just deduced.
The Creator had countless aspects, avatars, incarnations, and manifestations across all of the infinite layers of existence, innumerable layers of non-existence, and the numberless layers of transcendent reality beyond the conceptual duality and distinction between existence and non-existence. In one of those layers of non-existence, the one who would soon be known in one incarnation as SCP-343 comes into being. Or, more accurately, he wills the predominating aspect of his presence from non-being to being, from void to reality, yet still encompassing both. Giving himself the name of Yahweh among many others, this manifestation of the Creator, after much thought and contemplation, has decided to create a universe. He had it all planned out too. This universe would be a work of both science and art, producing unending complexity from pure simplicity. There would be an infinite fractal hierarchy of space-time and mass energy, of worlds within worlds without end, the worlds themselves generated by an almost unimaginable variety of physical forces, from cosmic inflation to a universal wave function. For each level of space-time, there would be a number of planes, physical, mental, spiritual, and conceptual. These planes would intersect, interpenetrate, and interact with each other, allowing profundity and meaning to take root in the network of worlds that make up the cosmos.
Now you've had it read out, I'm now going to tell you exactly how powerful and how large this is. The parts we really need from this is there would be an infinite fractal hierarchy of spacetime, as well as what each spacetime is, where it says for each spacetime there would be a number of planes, physical, mental, spiritual, and conceptual. What is interesting, it says number of planes, implying there could be more than one of each one of these planes, so we could have multiple conceptual layers, which makes sense and is consistent. However, we then take note of the fact that it's not just an infinite hierarchy, an infinite fractal hierarchy. The word fractal means that each one is a representation from one to another. So in other words, if we were to have a concept in one level above another level, that higher level is a meta concept or the concept of concepts. This is actually the foundation needed so that we could say that this infinite fractal hierarchy is in fact an extraversal scale. And because 343 and the macrocosm is in fact extraversal, we can say it is beyond boundless. To be beyond boundless, you need to be beyond the boundless tier of Versus Battle Wiki, or at least the very minimum of it. In previous videos, I've talked about how powerful the boundless tier is on Versus Battle Wiki, and what we like to say is that we equate the outerversal with Versus Battle Wiki and character stats and profile. We equate their high outerversals. We then say that boundless would be a 3 on the scale if we were to do a numerical scale from there, and extraversal, from its own definition, is up to infinity. So being extraversal was very easily beyond boundless. However, we have a lot more to go. We are just at 343. We haven't even reached his true form yet. Now we get to the Almighty. It was said that the Creator had countless aspects, avatars, incarnations, and manifestations across the infinite layers of existence, innumerable layers of non-existence, and the numberless layers of transcendent reality beyond the conceptual duality and distinct between existence and non-existence. This is what we said earlier. What this means is that the infinite levels of existence, that would be the scaling we gave to 343, that is extraversal. The innumerable layers of non-existence are parallel to that of existence, and this is where 343 brings things into reality. It is stated as such as well. However, the transcendent reality, beyond the conceptual duality distinct between existence and non-existence, is something entirely different. The concept of duality of existence and non-existence must be extraversal for a single layer. This is because the duality is the combination of both of them, and we know that individually existence and non-existence go up to extraversal because that's how high the tower goes. This then means that when we say there are numberless layers, each one of those layers are extraversal jumps. Also, numberless? Numberless is really impressive as well because we've had infinity, we've had innumerable, But numberless implies not even the concept of numbers can quantify the number of layers we have here. To summarize, going from SCP-343 to the Almighty is a bit like being an extraversal, then adding a beyond extraversal level of power just to reach the Almighty. However, that's not quite true. Believe it or not, there is more. Earlier on in the video, we saw this slide with this scan on it. And this scan was not complete. Missing information I kept out reads as such. There would also be an endless strata of cosmic laws, natural, spiritual, and otherwise, from the relatively local and environmental to the fundamental and all-encompassing, all unified under a single super force, a single source, a single law, a single mathematical equation. The theory of everything, if you will. This would bring order in the form of the macrocosm. Now let's read another SCP article and discover this is actually used elsewhere.
We have, essentially, a complete understanding of mathematics, complete enough to know that it is terminally incomplete. We can know no more essential facts. We have reached the end of our progress as sentient beings. But with the technology we developed, we found a way to continue the progress of sentience. We could reach out beyond our close family of multiverses, into the dark void between persistent realities. And there, we created something like the spark of a fire. We instantiated a new universe, with properties our mathematics told us were hospitable to a type of life which could succeed us. A more robust sentience. This is that universe. Humans are one of this sort of sentience. Your mathematics are far from surpassing ours, but already you've formed concepts impossible for us to comprehend. Your artistics, theories of value, metaphysics, and act are uninterpretable by us. You are our legacy. As of right now, we've created a seal around your local multiversal cluster. You cannot do what we did, yet. When your species, or another like it, has become advanced enough, this barrier will be removed. Our intention is that someday you too will be complete, as we are. And at that point you'll use your complete knowledge and create a world which can succeed you.
I actually have another video that is beyond Boundless on SCP-4555, the SCP Metaverse. In that video I said it was beyond Boundless. I also said it was beyond extraversal, but I never really said how big it was in terms of a Type 4 multiverse. So for those of you who are wondering how big it was, think of it as a multiverse of Type 4 multiverses, which is insanely large. However, that was all on the basis that the first multiverse in the selection of multiverses used to create the metaverse was outerversal. However, based on these scans right here, we know in fact that SCP-4555 is building off the mathematical equation built by SCP-343, which is extraversal. Meaning, when we said it was a multiverse of Type 4 multiverses, we were actually downplaying SCP-4555. So now to summarize how powerful the Almighty is, we'd say that SCP-343 and his creation, the macrocosm, is already at an extraversal level. We then say that we then use this to branch out by the branches of a Type 4 multiverse, an infinite number of times in fact, so that we have a multiverse of Type 4 multiverses, each one of them built off a extraversal scale. And then after that, we have another extraversal scale to then get to the reality of transduality of existence and non-existence that the Almighty had created. So the Almighty created all. And to think, the Almighty is only a mid-tier in the SCP cosmology. Like, no joke, in my SCP Metaverse video, I went over a quick description of what the SCP cosmology looks like, or at least a simplified version, and I showed this sort of diagram. With some changing of some of the name parts of the cosmology, we can see the Almighty really is just a mid-tier in the SCP cosmology. So with that, be excited for more Beyond Boundless videos for the SCP as we talk about more and more powerful SCPs, and eventually we'll even go higher than just narratives. And with that being said, I'd say thank you for everyone watching this video. Check out my playlist of Beyond Boundless, obviously, to see more Beyond Boundless videos. Expect more than just SCP Beyond Boundless videos. We'll be doing some Marvel, DC, and even some Dark Tower will be added a bit to the mix. In the description, you'll see plenty of channels that have shared their own videos and upload way more regularly than I do. So do subscribe to those channels. Those channels include my mates Korin O'Keefe and Captain Forst. Go check both their channels out. And with that, once again, thank you all for watching.